Hey Grandma, how do you feel about us all getting together this weekend for a reunion?
I think this is the neatest thing that's happened in years.
You're beautiful.
One time going to her house when I was a teenager, and it was just me and her. We were making lunch, and we decided to have tuna fish sandwiches. So she opens up the can and mixes in the mayo, and she proceeds to make my sandwich first and puts almost the entire can of tuna on my sandwich and saves one little spoonful for her sandwich. And I tried to protest and say, Grandma, I don't need so much tuna fish on mine alone. We can split this and we'll each have a great tuna fish sandwich, but she insisted. And I love that memory because I just think it really tells how generous and loving Grandma is and always has been.
So I remember when I was little, I used to take piano lessons from Grandma, and I remember a lot of times I would be playing the song and she would look like she had fallen asleep. And so I would just keep playing, but think I could kind of just do whatever, and then I'd play a wrong note and she would say, B flat, or whatever it was, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, you just can't ever pull one over on Grandma. So that's my memory of Grandma.
We're on a family reunion and Grandma Bird and all the cousins too. The whole family.
Memories about Grandpa are sitting on his carpet and listening to him tell stories about he would tell stories about magic carpet rides, and we would be on the magic carpet going places and having great adventures, and I don't know how we thought of all those things, but it was really fun as a kid.
Falling down, falling down, falling down, London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Okay, my memories of Grandma are when I was little and she would sit on the couch, or I would sit up on the back of the church couch, and I would comb her hair for hours and hours. And the other thing I loved to do with her is that we would play shoe store, and Grandma had probably several pairs of shoes, all different colors, and I would go in and I would measure her foot, and I'd ask her what color she'd want, and I'd bring her shoes and she'd try them on and she'd say that's just perfect. So we had some fun times growing up. I love my mom so much.
Okay, well, there was one day when we were at Grandma and Grandpa's house, Janine and I, and we were playing password with Grandma, and at one point Grandpa Rigby came by and Arlene said, Ralph, would you like to play around? And he stopped and looked slowly over at us and said, yes, but I don't think you'll let me. And then we all burst out laughing.
When I was in elementary school, Grandma stayed over with us and she walked me to school one day, and I don't remember why, but I was really grumpy that day and in a really bad mood, and she could tell, and she started, when we were walking to school, she started singing this song about being happy, and I don't really remember the words, but I remember how it made me felt, and even at that young age, it made me think of just what that meant to be happy when things in your life are going wrong, and that it's important to just be happy even if your life is having troubles, and that has stayed with me my whole life 20 years later, and so I really love you, Grandma.
My favorite memory of Grandma actually involves Grandpa. It was his funeral, in fact, and I was pretty tore up. I was a junior in high school, and I remember hanging out near the back at the viewing and not wanting to go up and not wanting to even be there, period. And I was back there, feeling bad for myself. Grandma, obviously in the middle of morning, was looking around and she noticed me in the back, so she wandered back and put her arm around me and said, you got to come up and say goodbye. So she took me up there, and then the rest of the viewing and the funeral was a great experience and very spiritual. But I just remember that, thinking like, wow, Grandma's here in the middle of, she just lost her husband, just lost Grandpa, and she was worried about me, and probably everyone else too, but at least we had that moment together.
Pull up a chair.
So Grandma always taught us to be very positive. And going to college, being away from home, trying to be out on my own, loved getting emails from her. And one of my favorite memories was the email that said, "I painted the kitchen, but you're not going to be able to see it. I cleaned it all up before you got to see it," because she was helping Grandpa and cooking beets, and the beets exploded before she got back to him. But she wrote it in such a fun way and had me laughing all the way through the email on the way that she painted the kitchen and had the beets all over the white kitchen, so she had polka dots all over the kitchen. And the way that Grandma always made even something as having to wipe beets off of her white kitchen cupboards to sound like a fun, exciting thing, because she redecorated her whole kitchen. The fact that something that could be so devastating made herself laugh and have such a fun time. I just love her. She spent her life taking care of Grandpa and all of us, and she made everything she did sound like it was a good experience. And I love that about her, and I loved everything she did for us and all of us. And I just love her and Grandpa and everything they taught us.
Stay up all night to read a book.
Someone let Grandma sit down.
Okay, I first learned what a charmed life that Grandma Rigby leads when Karen and I began dating. I'd flown home at Christmas time to Minnesota, where my mom and dad lived, and when I came back, there was a big snowstorm, and she couldn't come up from Provo to pick me up. So Alan picked me up at the airport, and then I went with the family to go to Grandma Barnett's for some Christmas celebration that night. Again, major snowstorm, you know, more than a foot on the freeway on the I-15 corridor. I'm in the back of the station wagon lying down. Grandma's driving, Grandpa's in the passenger seat, and the car's filled with other members of the family. And Grandma sees snowplows ahead coming up the point of the mountain. 2 snowplows, one, they were staggered, pushing the snow, of course, to the right. Grandma passed them on the right, going about 50 miles an hour in the snowstorm. And that's when I could feel the guardian angels that just held on to that station wagon, and we got through and got to our destination safely.
One of my favorite memories of Grandma is just when I would go over to her house and just stay there, just myself, without my family. It was just me, and we would just have fun. We would do puzzles together, or we would watch movies, or we would just go do some stuff around the house. Or sometimes I would go down to her house during apricot season and can apricots with her and pick all the apricots and clean off the apricots off the ground, and just doing stuff with her just made me so happy. And my favorite memories of Grandpa is most when he would gather me and my sisters together, and we would sit on the floor and he would tell us stories, and of course we were always the heroes of the story, and we would always win the day and save the day, and it was just my favorite.
One memory I have of Grandma is when I can't remember how old I was, but I had broken my arm and I had to stay home from school, and so I had the opportunity to go to Grandma and Grandpa's house to be watched. And I just remember feeling extra special. I was there by myself, and it was a lot of fun. And I learned that there were stands that could help hold books. I was an avid reader, and Grandpa helped share his stand with me so that I could turn pages with my broken arm, you know, like, despite having my broken arm. So it was a lot of fun being with Grandma and Grandpa that day. Made a lot of love. And then a more recent memory is I enjoyed helping Grandma go to the doctors. Not that we liked going to the doctors, but it was a fun opportunity to be able to kind of be a little bit more one-on-one with her, you know, a little bit more recently. So, love you, Grandma.
One of my favorite memories of Grandma is and always will be going to the Payson Cemetery, which is probably one of the few things we've actually done as a tradition, I think every single year since I've been in the family. And I love watching Grandma up there, and she, with all the gumption she's got, she somehow corrals a group of there's 50 people or 30 people, And she, without any hesitation, she knows right where she's going, and she's got great stories. And anyway, so I will always love and remember Grandma's fun stories at the Payson Cemetery.
A favorite memory I have of my mom is one day we were outside and we'd removed a bunch of bushes from the front of our house. We had a bunch of fitzers that grew out there, and after we'd taken all the fitzers to the dump, piled into the station wagon clear to the top, my mom and I were out trying to saw off one of the stumps, and I just remember that it was really hard and we didn't dig the hole very deep where we were trying to saw down to get the stump below ground, and we both started laughing, and we couldn't even keep working because we were laughing so hard. And it really made me realize that even when you're doing things that are hard, that the opportunities that you have for building relationships are really heightened by doing things together.
Rigby's at our reunion,
And we're so happy
to be here.
We will run races with happy faces, and for Grandma we'll give them a cheer. Rigby's, Rigby's are so fun. Rigby's are so fun. Go Rigby's!
Woohoo! They got it down.
Hi Grandma, it's Steph. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video with all the things that people love about you, and I hope you know how much we all love you. One of the things that I have learned from you is the importance of family history work. I've watched you my whole life documenting Grandpa's life and your ancestors' lives, and pretty much everyone. I would consider you an expert in family history, and I always knew I could come and ask you if I had any questions. You're such an awesome grandma. You've always been so cool with all the knowledge and skills you have on the computer, and I've just always really looked up to you and admire you. You're a hard worker and a sweet woman, and I love you so much, Grandma.